Welcome to the, I'd like to call this October 10th, 2023 council meeting to order. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hare.
Here.
Hazeltine.
Present.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose. Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Coin.
Here. Reading of the minutes,
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I will move that the minutes of the regular meeting of September 25th, 2023 as prepared and submitted by the clerk be approved.
Second?
Any discussion on the approval of the minutes? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to council and will meet again in 2 weeks. Health, Safety, and Sanitation, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Properties, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, no report this evening.
Thank you. Special Legislation, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report, no meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Streets and Sidewalks, Ms. Hare.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report, and there are no meetings scheduled.
Thank you. Water and Utilities, Ms. Hazeltine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing new to announce and no meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Request for council action. We have several for the Finance Committee. We have 23-188, a then and now for Central Square Technologies for the Police Department. 23-189, Budget Amendment. 23-190, Transfer Request for the Parking Fund. 23-191, Fiscal Year 22, CHIP Rehab 13 Plymouth Street, Amend Ordinance 132-23. 23-192, Expenditure for Technology Engineering Group for the IT. 23-193, Resolution Accepting Amounts and Rates for the Budget Commission. 23-194, Amend Code Ordinance 945.02, Parks Restrictions, Item G. 23-195, Increased Expenditure for Davis Tree Farm Forestry. 23-196, Expenditure for HSH Construction Emergency Water Line. 23-197, MOU with Medina County Granger Road Water Line. 23-198, New Ordinance Prohibit Camping upon Public Property. 23-199, Bids for Job Number 924, Spring Grove Cemetery Road Improvements. 23-200, Grant Application, 2024 Body Worn Camera Grant Program. 23-201, RFPs for non-emergent transport from nursing homes. 23-202, waiving certain uncollectible utility counts. 23-203, repeal ordinance 123-23, Reagan Skate Park rehabilitation. 23-204, health insurance renewal, Medical Mutual of Ohio. And 23-205, increase PO 2023-14-999, CHIP rehab. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. A number of our staff members are either returning from vacation, at trainings, or under the weather tonight, so we have kind of a smaller group here. On Friday, October 6th, we had a ribbon cutting for a new business in Medina, the Interstate Studio and Publishing Company, located at the lower level of 281 South Court Street. We'd like to welcome them and thank them for choosing Medina, and I'd like to thank Councilman Simpson for attending that one with us. On behalf of Nino, who's returning from vacation, the city auction will be held at the City Garage, 781 West Smith Road, on October 28th. And the preview is at 9 a.m. and the auction starts promptly at 10 a.m. And if you check the city website at www.medinaoh.org, you can find the list of available items for that auction. And then the second thing from Nino was the LEAF program will begin soon, possibly the week of October 16th. The Streets Department continues to monitor the amounts of leaves placed at the curbs and encourages people to do so because that's what they're gauging as to when it makes sense to bring the trucks out and start up the program. The leaf trucks have all been serviced and they're ready to be placed into action, and we'll continue the leaf program until the leaves are all gone or the weather doesn't permit us to continue to vacuum them up, be it with snow, ice, or both. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. As everyone here knows, but for the benefit of the people at home, over a year ago, the council passed a deer abatement ordinance, and then there were referendum petitions circulated. My office gets involved in that because initiative and referendum petitions get submitted to the finance director. Those petitions then I took to the Board of Elections, which determined that there were sufficient signatures to put the issue on the ballot. So the ordinance that council has passed has not taken effect yet because we wait for that. The purpose of a referendum is to give the voters a say in that. But the big question that everybody has had, and I think everybody here knows the answer to this, but just so everyone understands it, because it's a little confusing since it's a referendum of an ordinance that council passed, how the votes work. The way it works is a yes vote will be to adopt the ordinance that council adopted last year. A no vote will be to reject the ordinance that council adopted last year. Just so everybody's clear on that. And then I have a whole bunch of ordinances that I have to talk to when we get there, and I'll address those when we get there.
Thank you. Chief Kinney, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple updates. The dog park at Ray Mallard Park is going to be opening this Thursday morning, October 12th. It'll be a soft opening. The Memorial Dog Park will remain open, but will close November 20th. We're going to give the public ample time, as well as communicate those plans for the next several weeks. So invite the public if you want to bring your dogs. It's a great place to go. Secondly, the Reagan Park Skate Park replacement is underway. Crews began grinding the concrete and the ramps were removed last week. New ramps are expected to be installed in March of 2024. And lastly, registration is now open for our youth basketball program for boys and girls at the Medina Rec. You can go to medinarec.org for more information and to register. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Update on West Smith. Currently, we're finishing the driveways, sidewalks, and landscaping on the western half of the project. That should be completed in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll flip over and return to the eastern half and finish the utilities and all the rest of the work. Also, at Fire Station number 1, where we're replacing the existing parking lot, Phase 1 is completed and actually opened this week to for use. We're not working this week in anticipation. There's an open house at the fire station Saturday. Once that's completed, the crews will return next week to start the second phase.
Thank you. Mr. Dutton, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you're aware, the city, in conjunction with the County Parks Department, has been conducting a multi-use path plan for the better part of this year. We'll be holding a public meeting regarding the plan and some drafts on November 8th, 6 p.m. here at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Notices, communications, and petitions, there are none. There's no unfinished business. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments shall be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes shall be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the rear microphone, state their name and address so it can be entered in the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a vote of a majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, sir. Whoever. Ma'am? I guess, yeah. Oh, I guess.
We've got a bunch of takers tonight.
Hello, Nathan Case, 513 East Washington Street. I'd like to speak for the group that's been marginalized the most over the last 2 years of debate, the hunters. I'm overwhelmed by the audacious comments. But before I get into the remarkable skill, I'd like to ask a few questions of you. Did you take a driver safety class? Did you practice for 6 months under a supervised driver? Did you go to the state and pass a written test? Did you receive a certificate and approval? Did you get a license and tags this year? Now, if I ask you, if I said, you are too stupid and dangerous to drive in my neighborhood, would I have to tell you not to run over a person, let alone a child? Would I have to say it's against the law to run over a person? Or would that be an instinctive and moral human trait as to not cause harm to others? I ask this question because our hunters have been foolishly framed this way. We are citizens just like you. We respect the laws just like you. We have morals just like you. The only hunters that will be allowed to hunt in Medina are required to take a safety class, pass a safety test, get a license, get tags, and have 5 kills with the bow. No inexperienced hunters will be permitted. Now moving on to the hunters. It seems as though people think that hunters are stupid and careless. I can't stop dwelling on this narrative. I've thought about all the hunters that I've known, and it's funny how there's a connection with most of them. I've known hunters that were Marine snipers, paratroopers, Navy pilots, police officers, firefighters, first responders, SWAT members, corrections officers, enlisted men, wounded veterans, and civil servants. All of these people had a past or current life serving the good of our community and our country. Now I ask you, do these heroes act irresponsible when they hunt? Absolutely not. These are the men and women that stand for the morals and the Constitution of our nation. 42% of hunters are veterans, and there's a good portion of us that serve our community. All of us respect nature, and we train like our life depends on it. We train to prevent injury to ourselves and others. We want to be the best hunters that we can be so that we do not waste the little time allotted to us by the state and our spouses. We spent countless years honing our skills. We spend ridiculous amounts of money trying to find the best clothes, the best way to hide our scent, the best hunting blinds, deer stands, and weapons. What we are not is careless and stupid. I have known hunters that have taken over 100 deer in their life. Try insulting their skill. Try to insult an old man that has harvested several metric tons of meat in his life, and that is to serve and protect. Their honor should never be questioned in this capacity. I am a firm believer of the First Amendment. Our Constitution is what defines us as Americans. Every person in this chamber has the right to speak freely and openly. But when an elected official speaks and titles themselves as a Medina City Council member, they are bound by the ethics of this chair. They are bound by the charter in which they swore to behold. I've seen lies in these chambers divide this community. I've also seen lies represented by members of this body portrayed as fact outside of these walls. Our community deserves better. Going forward in this debate, it is my hope that everyone will be factual, respect all groups in this community, and encourage trust in our law enforcement. Vote any way you wish, but please base it on facts. Remember, we're all neighbors, and between our fences or across the aisle, we never solve problems with deception and disrespect.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? Ma'am? Yep, sure.
Good evening. My name is Katie Simone with the Ohio Auditor of State's Office. I'm happy to be here this evening on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber to present the City of Medina and Medina's City Fiscal Officer, Keith. It's Durham, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Keith Durham with an Ohio Auditor of State Award with distinction this evening. We have about 6,000 entities in the state of Ohio that the Auditor of State is responsible for auditing, and about 4% of those are able to get an award with distinction. And so we're always very excited to be able to congratulate the cities and municipalities and people who are responsible for getting a award with distinction from the Auditor of State's Office. And we just want to thank the Fiscal Office, the City of Medina, and the team for their professionalism, fiscal integrity, and hard work in getting this award.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council, ma'am?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. My name is Loretta Krieger, 55 Circle Drive, Medina. Council members, last year at multiple city council meetings and also at Ward 3 and 4 meetings at Ellicott School, you told us in standing room only meetings, the deer ordinance was modeled after North Royalton's deer ordinance. That was said over and over again at multiple meetings. You mentioned it so many times that I had to go to the internet site of North Royalton's deer ordinance to see it for myself. I want you to know, I took a picture of Medina's deer ordinance with my phone the day that you passed it. I noticed it was only 2 pages long. I checked online. It was the meeting, the first time I checked online was the meeting at Ellicott. The exact same sites. I mean, the Medina site does have the same picture of the one that I took right here in this room. I noticed it was 2 pages long. I went online to North Royalton's site. It has 14 pages. So I was comparing Medina's with North Royalton because you all mentioned it so many times. I was like, wow, I guess I better look at that. So I did. I did bring both of those, the Medina's and North Royalton's, with me, if anybody would like to take a look at it. North Royalton, if you compare the differences they have, I'll tell you, the differences are that North Royalton has 14 pages because they're protecting the safety of their citizens and the traveling public by having safety rules and regulations. Medina City passed a very unsafe, barely any rules or ordinance, in my opinion, with no consideration for the safety of its citizens and the traveling public in the city of Medina. When Bill Lamb tried to have 5 simple safety rules or regulations added to the ordinance, not one council person up there would even give a second to consider adding those resolutions. I think one of you were on vacation or something. I can't remember which one. But there were, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
I was in the Philippines, sorry.
Well, hey, yeah, they explained that. The following, what I'm going to read, are the motions Bill made that died for lack of a second by each of you council members. And FYI, this is from the city council meeting minutes from 9/12 of '22. Bill Lamb made a motion to table the current proposal for further review in consideration of measures and limitations that would provide for better safety through more specific regulations. Motion died for lack of a second. Mr. Lamb made another motion to amend the ordinance by limiting the hours of hunting for those permitted to those hours that school students are not traveling to and from school or likely to be at a school bus stop. Motion died for lack of a second. The third one was to amend the ordinance to exclude hunting on residential property of public or private schools, churches, and cemeteries, but I think cemeteries are actually in the Ohio laws, but in locations frequented by public and adjacent properties. Motion died for lack of a second. Mr. Lamb made a fourth motion to amend the ordinance to include all properties adjacent to properties granted a permit for hunting, that those properties must be notified in writing prior to the issuance of the permit. Motion died for lack of second. I say shame on city council that they could have tabled the Sunsafe ordinance and at least considered a second of the motions that could possibly make the city ordinance safer. And then we went ahead and spent all that time, getting the referendum passed through. The North Royalton has so many different safety regulations that you could have amended to that ordinance. And the people in the city, most people know that we have too many deer, but neighborhood bow hunting is not safe in Medina City. I recall a city council and professional bow hunters at meetings stating that bow hunting would be so safe in the city of Medina. I disagree totally with you and the bow hunters. I know real bow hunters are safe. I lived in Lafayette growing up and had a lot of friends that owned farms, and there were a lot of illegal hunters out there, and there were a lot of damage being done. A lot of them weren't caught. Some were. But you have to remember, you have those crazy people out there. I'm not talking about the hunters, and I've never insulted a hunter. My brothers were hunters. I didn't care for it myself, so I didn't go, but I do, learn how to shoot a gun or whatever. But if you watch the news recently, you would have seen that a 12-year-old boy in Columbiana County on Sunday, October 1st, was killed while bow hunting for a deer with his brother. Horrible accidents do happen. The week before that, a bow hunter was just target practicing almost a block away from a school. A young girl was shot by one of those target practicing arrows. Imagine crossbow hunters in neighborhoods inside our city limits. Horrible accidents do happen. You all, except Bill Lamb, said that those things don't happen. Yes, they do. Those two examples I just gave you are just two of the horrible accidents that I've heard about. And that's happened in the last 2 weeks. 3 weeks ago, actually, was the one. I personally have been contacted by bow hunters. I have friends that are bow hunters. I have friends that own crossbows. They all disagree with you, that they tell me it is not safe in any neighborhood in Medina to have crossbow hunters hunting in a densely populated city of Medina. Our city does not have properties that have acres and acres of land. There's a lot of difference in a lot of the cities that have more property than our neighborhoods do. And outside the perimeters of that red zone that you pick, the neighborhoods have practically there's not acreage. There's not acres of land that a lot of the people own. But at one of those meetings, you said multiple times that if you had I don't know what the number was, 4 to 6 property owners go together, and you could have a bow hunter if you all signed off on it. There's no regulations that the neighbors have to be notified. No one's going to know when anybody's bow hunting. Well, the police will, but there's nothing in the ordinance that says that they have to notify those people. Anyway, my friends that have written to me that tell me that they agree with me that crossbows should not be allowed in the city of Medina, that there's no safe neighborhood in the city of Medina. It's just too densely populated. Nor does our city have neighborhoods that have properties that crossbow hunters can shoot 100 to 400 yards in a shoot-to-kill area. I don't know any in my neighborhood anyway. Accidents do happen. And that's all I want to let you know.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Kuhar, 875 Gayer Drive, Medina, Ohio. There are so many things on my mind. I've been a bow hunter for over 40 years, competitive archer for over 40 years. I've said that before. I know of the hunting accident in Columbiana County where the 12-year-old was killed. I'm anxiously awaiting to hear the particulars of that from the ODNR's investigation. And yeah, I do agree that, yes, accidents can happen. Accidents can happen with any sport. Hunting, by far, is safe. I mean, National Institutes for Safety Standards lists it right there with billiards. Does that mean that nothing can happen? No. Do I give you an assurance that nothing can happen? No, I don't owe you that, but I can state as a bow hunter, I am safe, I am ethical. The videos that were put out this week that I feel inaccurately portray what bow hunting is about, stating where it would happen, and that specifically, and I quote, dangerous weapons will be introduced to our community by bow hunters stalking deer in our neighborhoods. There will be no stalking going on in our neighborhoods. The ordinance itself, if you read it, says it must be done from a tree stand elevation. You're aiming at the ground. You're not aiming at targets 400 yards away, 100 yards away. The average distance that a deer is taken in Ohio is 24 yards. Even a deer 40 yards, if you shoot 2 feet over its back, the arrow is going to make it from me to you. That's how far it goes into the ground. That's simple trigonometry math that we're all taught in high school. Yes, there are dangerous weapons in our communities, but I contend they are not wielded by hunters. The dangerous weapons that I've seen this week are cameras, wielded by anti-hunters, spreading lies and falsehoods based purely on emotion and not on fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council? Sir?
Yes, I'm Glenn Bergdorf, live at 1011 Oak Street. I'm going to come back with a few comments against the gentleman earlier, saying ethical hunters. I've seen multiple deer hunting posts and Facebook pages. It looked like a good shot. I tracked this deer for 300-400 yards. Does anybody have a tracking dog? Another comment I've seen multiple times. Did anybody shoot a deer a couple of days ago? I found one now. Is this what we want laying around the city? Anybody could make a bad shot. And I've seen way too many of them in the comments to see it. I don't want to see that here in the city. That basically covers what I want to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jeff Mikulaki. I live at 1021 South Court Street. And I've been following this a little bit on and off throughout the year. And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole issue right now is that we have a vote coming up for Medina residents, that we either go and have some kind of deer abatement program or we do not. It seems to me that everybody's in agreement that we definitely have a deer problem in Medina. And the where and the how and what we're going to do about it will have to be decided after we decide whether we're going to do anything at all about it. So, I mean, you can go ahead and beat the bow hunting, the sharpshooter, however you want to go ahead and, eliminate some of the deer problem. But if you decide not to do anything at all, I think the science speaks for itself that we're going to have a serious problem in a couple years if we don't do something about the deer. So I think it's probably, what side you want to stand on this issue, it's important that we go ahead and address this before it gets out of hand. I spoke last fall. There's nobody likes looking at deer any more than I do. Every night I go out for a walk, it's like, all right, where are they at? They're over here, they're over there, they're doing this, they're doing that. I have to listen to my wife all year long about her complaining about the deer eating her flowers, so it's kind of like, I like them, she don't, kind of a deal. But I don't want to go ahead and see any deer that are, if we get too many of them, that they do start getting sick. There are things we have to worry about as chronic wasting disease. I also spoke last fall about if we get too many deers, we have to worry about Lyme tick disease and stuff like that coming in. And, everybody has a nice yard. Everybody has a nice community. I don't want to go and have to put heavy chemicals on myself or my pets or anything to go out there and be in my own yard because, let's say, we've got a problem now with ticks because there's so many deer. So, once again, it looks like we have to decide whether we're going to do something about the issue or not. The where and the means and the how, I guess we'll have to work that out with the safety people and the, people involved, how to do it the best way, the safest way, and eliminate some of the deer. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Well, I mean, I guess the question that you're bringing up is the election. During the election, there's as Mr. Durham indicated, a yes vote means to adopt the ordinance that council passed, and a no vote means to reject that ordinance. So if there's a no vote and it's rejected, the lady up here mentioned that it doesn't stop. Well, there'll be further discussions on something, I guess. I don't know what that would be. But the public would have spoken and told council what they wanted to do, and I guess we would have to try to figure out, as you mentioned, another solution if there is one. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, we've been through it, so we gotta let the public make the decision to make the determination of what they would like to see, as you mentioned. That's what would happen. Yes, okay. Anybody else that wishes to address council at this time? Okay. Introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on the following ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 157-23, 158-23, 159-23, 160-23, 161-23. Resolution 162-23, 163-23. Ordinance 164-23 and 165-23.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
I will make a motion suspending the rules requiring 3 readings of tonight's ordinances and resolutions.
Second?
Any discussion on the motion to suspend the rules? Will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Ordinance 157-23, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to solicit requests for proposals, RFPs, for drug screening and associated professional services for the employees of the city of Medina.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Mayor Hamwell?
Thank you, Mr. President. We do this annually. This is drug screening for pre-hires, for CDL drivers, for post-accident testing, and it just gives the different entities in town that provide these services an opportunity to bid on this service for the city.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 157-23 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 158-23, an ordinance amending sections 3102B3 and 3105 of the Salaries and Benefits Code of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to the account clerk positions in the Finance Department.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 2 clerks in utility billing in the front of the office there. One is full-time and one is part-time. This will make them both full-time.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Ordinance 158-23 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 159-23, an ordinance amending sections 91704A of the codified ordinances of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to water rates.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. It will increase water rates over the next 2 years. This is to match the increase that we are receiving from Avon. As you know, we purchased the water from Avon Lake Municipal Utilities. This balances out the increase because we actually have a very small increase this year and then a much larger increase next year. So this will balance that out, and they're roughly equal. And it is rates for 24 and 25. Oh, and Utility Rate Review Commission reviewed this and made this as a recommendation.
Thank you. And just to remind the public that the rates are increasing not only upon us, but it also increases on the City of Avon residents. So it's not like they can just increase rates on all the other members of the consortium. They have to increase the residents on their own city also. Any further discussion or comment on the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Ordinance 159-23 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 160-23, an ordinance authorizing, or ordinance amending ordinance number 80-23 passed April 24th, 2023, relative to the contract with Ray and Associates for the preparation of the city's CAFR CAFR.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields.
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for our gap conversion. They, in the contract that we have with them, they have a provision that if there are new GASB statements that have to be adopted, that they can increase the amount for the adoption of those. I'm pretty sure the people at GASB are paid by the statement because they pretty much come up with something every year. This year's was dealing with leases, which wouldn't impact us, except it picked up a bunch of subscriptions for software, so we had to do that, and that's why there was a change in emergency clauses, because the work's already been done.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Ordinance 160-23 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 161-23, an ordinance amending ordinance number 221-22 passed December 12th, 2022, amendments to the 23 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a pass-through of a donation that was received.
Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 161-23 passes 6-0.
Resolution 162-23, a resolution establishing an ad hoc committee to be known as the Medina Municipal Courthouse Architect Review Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Just to let you know, this committee was set up to, as everybody may know, that we've entered into a long-term lease with the county regarding the 1969 courthouse building, that our municipal court, the Medina Municipal Court, will be taking occupancy in that building for several or many years. And we need to set up a committee to discuss and review the architects. I think the RFP for the architects have been sent out, so once those come back, the committee will discuss, which architect will be chosen to prepare the plans for the build-out of the municipal court at the 1969 building. The committee will be made up of the member, representatives of council, the municipal court judge, the municipal court manager, and the city engineer. Is there any further comment or discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Hold on, John.
Oh, sorry, Mayor.
I think I was on that as well.
You are, I said
Otherwise, you
mayor.
end up-
I said mayor.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're on there. Mayor, representatives of the city council, municipal judge, manager of the court, and the city engineer. Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Resolution 162-23 passes 6-0.
Resolution 163-23, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates determined by the Budget Commission, and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields.
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the resolution. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an annual thing that we have to do. It's the state's laid out procedure for budgets. We also need the emergency clause every year because the way the timing works, we get it from the county and then it needs to be turned back. It has to be turned in by November 1st and we didn't get it till September 27th. So we need the emergency clause to take effect in time to return it. This is the first step, basically, well, the second step of the state's budget process sets our property tax rates.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and or the ordinance or the resolution? Will the clerk please call the roll on adoption of the emergency clause?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Resolution 163-23 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 164-23, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Medina, Ohio, certifying that when a municipal obligation was incurred, sums were lawfully appropriated in the funds to satisfy the obligation, and sufficient sums currently exist to satisfy this obligation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President.
Mr. Shields.
The emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause in the ordinance. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for the computer-aided dispatch for the police department. It's a subscription for the year, but it's a then and now because the timing started before we got it passed, so we need this then and now approved.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Ordinance 16423 passes 6-0.
Ordinance 16523, an ordinance authorizing the finance director to make certain fund transfers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an annual transfer that we do. The parking fund revenues are not sufficient to cover the costs of the parking, so we do a transfer from general fund to cover that deficiency every year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Lamb.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Ordinance 16523 passes 6-0.
Thank you. Council comments? Anybody? Nope.
Got nothing.
Nope. All right. Oh, Mr. Lamb?
I'm over here, remember?
Well, yeah, I asked.
How could we?
I just want to add this to, we're having a pretty healthy discussion on this issue. And there's no question, I think, where I think I have talked about it at great length. There is an old Dave Mason song, some of you older people in the audience might remember. It's called We Just Disagree. And it's the amazing thing about this system that we have, and someone that spoke tonight mentioned it, things like a First Amendment right, that we can do these things within the confines of our government, and we can discuss them, and we can debate them, and we can disagree, and we can do it in a healthy way, and we can do it without name-calling, we can do it without threatening to kill people, we can do it so that we can arrive at a good result. We do just disagree. I have great respect for our police chief. I admire him. I think he is the personification of what you would expect if you could draw up on a piece of paper what you consider to be the outstanding symbol of what a police chief should be. And he is authorized to do some things that I know he will do in the very best way he can. But I can still disagree with the ordinance. But if the ordinance passes, my expectation is the police chief will do his duty and do the very best that he can do. This has nothing to do with disrespecting. This has nothing to do with not liking. Nothing to do with anything of that sort. I have great respect for the Parks and Recreation Director. I admire the work he's doing. I was thrilled when he got the job. I was double thrilled when he also got the job of being the Recreation Director, not just the Parks Director. I see what he does every single day. Can we disagree? We certainly can. And then we can agree on a whole bunch of other things. I'm a veteran. I know something about crossbows. I have a friend who was in a unit called an SOG unit. And he had a crossbow. And he actually used it when he was in the field. Unbelievable, but he used it. He was in a unit called the Studies and Observation Unit, which was the precursor of the Special Forces. And we used to go out on downtime and shoot at targets that we had, and I'd watch him and I'd fire his crossbow and see what that crossbow could do. Pretty amazing thing. So I have some familiarity with it. But my sense is, and these council people disagree with me. It's not that I don't like them. We just disagree. We have agreed on more things than you could ever count if we could stay here for the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 beyond days. We could agree. That's the amazing thing about our system. But we can disagree. and we can be respectful. We cannot name call. We just go about our business. And in this case, the amazing thing about our system is City Council passed an ordinance, but some people in the community didn't like it. And so they had the ability then, within a month, to go out and knock on 2,500 doors to gather signatures to put that on the ballot. And if people vote in favor of it, they will vote in favor. If they vote against it, they will vote against it. And then there will be a result. And if the result is that it comes back here, City Council has the opportunity to try to work on a system that isn't the system that was just voted down. If it passes, it'll go into effect. That's how it works. It's the wonder of the system that we're in, that we can work together, we can respect each other, and then we can disagree. And in this case, we can let voters decide what the outcome will be, and we will live with it. And if we get the ordinance, I know every effort will be made to keep things safe. I just think it needed to have more regulation. I had distributed a 26-page safe deer management program. To do that would be a lot of work, hard work, engagement of the community, a lot of other options, but it also included culling. I met with the President of Council before this was passed, and I said, if in fact we did this in a park with sharpshooters, I would not object. I wouldn't vote for it, but I would not object. When it was evident it was going to pass, I did propose some amendments. I thought, if it's going to pass, let's try to add these things to it and make it a little bit safer. Add the regulations. I didn't get the regulations. And so a group of citizens went out, circulated petitions, got it on the ballot. Now we get to resolve it. That's how the system works. I've always been proud to be part of this system, all the years I've been here. Things I've accomplished, things I've failed at, many great people I've been able to work with, and I still am. It's not how you vote, it's the fact that you go vote. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, and then we all continue to get along. We have this nonpartisan city council. We can be proud of it. We work together. We try to come to a good conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other council comments? That's it? Anybody? All right. Meeting is adjourned.